which leads me to today's topic, which is the UX education space. And we will try to unpack together with our mentor and expert in UX education, Anna. We will try to unpack what are some pain points, some issues with the UX industry and the transition options for people. What are some pain points? What are some issues? What are things that can be improved? What can one do to to make their transition into their first UX role and into their UX career as smooth as possible? So we will be touching on a lot of interesting points if you're early on in your design career. And I think that Anna is the best person in the world to talk about this topic because she's how can I call it? She's one of the most articulate voices in the UX education space, and it's her passion is what she's been doing. And I'm gonna allow her to introduce herself a bit more in detail so that the audience know where she's coming from in this conversation. So Anna, thank you for joining us as a mentor and also for being here on this event.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Joanna. It's great to be here. And thank you so much for your kind introduction. So I'm flattered. But yeah, so my name is Anna. I am new to Mento, so I'm very excited to be a mentor to Mento Academy. And my background, as Joanna mentioned a bit, is always been a bit related to UX education. So I started many years ago in the design field. And through my career, I had different roles, a variety of roles, from UI design to UX research. And nowadays I do design ops at a company I'm based in Portugal, but we work globally. So we work remote with everyone around the world, which is really cool. And I've mentored many students, and I've also done training in-house with companies. So I'd love to talk about everything UX education. And yeah, any questions you have, I know we have a few to go through. I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
That's great. And I'm so happy we're having this conversation because I know that probably the most common questions I get on UX goodies on Instagram are around the UX education space and how overwhelming it feels to navigate all the options, different courses, different boot camps, so many options out there. Some people say, no, you can do it on your own, but can you? So we will try to unpack all those ideas. And just for the audience to know how we will go about this, I have a set of questions that is built on the questions that came in through Instagram and the most common questions around UX education in general. And at the end of this event, we will be allowing questions from you guys. So if you have anything on your mind that you want to ask Anna directly, please write it in the chat. And at the end of this event, we will collect all the questions and try to answer them as much as possible. So with this intro, I'm going to jump into the first question to make the most out of the time we have. So one of our students, Sade, hi Sade, if you're watching this, wanted to know if Anna would do something differently when it comes to her own transition and her own story of getting into UX design now that she has all the knowledge around UX education. If how she would do it today if she were to start over. So Anna, maybe a little bit about your own background and your transition and how did you end up doing UX design and what you would do differently.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Well done. What I would have done differently. So how I actually done. So I've, as I mentioned, I'm from a visual design background. So I finished my degree in design more than 10 years ago. And when back then it was a bit different. So we didn't talk about the term UX as much. So it was a bit of a different journey. Many of us as well kind of transitioned from a visual background to more of a UX background through the years, and that was more or less my path. And I think what I struggled the most was when everyone started talking about something new, is that I didn't really have many people to exchange ideas with. Everything was pretty new. Everyone was kind of figuring it out. And UX has always been around because if you notice, we had to do experiences that have our users' interests in mind. But the term itself, it was not mentioned a lot. So if it was today, honestly, I would love to have someone to guide me through it. How I would do it? Well, I would, of course, do my research, understand who might be the best person to help me, who could support me, being a mentor, being a tutor, being sometimes it's just really being there to help you, remaining accountable. But that's something that I might have done differently if I had the opportunities that we have today. So have someone who could help me through my path. I think it's not an easy transition. Apart from that, I don't regret specific things I've done in terms of education. For example, I know some people ask a lot about having formal education or not. I think that's an option that, of course, it's an investment. So, we need to think what really benefits us personally. I decided to go through a specific route. I don't think it's the only route, but I also teach myself a lot. And I think that's also an important part. So I'm not sure if I would have done anything different, maybe just because it was a different time. I think today you have many more options and you have kind of spoiled by choice, which, is good and bad at the same time. But I think there's so many opportunities nowadays to make this transition easier. And I would take advantage of that for sure.
I think that there's like this counterintuitive effect of having a lot of options. Well, for us designers, it's not necessarily counterintuitive. We all know about option paralysis or decision paralysis. When there are too many options, you don't know which one to choose. And this is actually my next question. Why do you think it's so paralyzing for aspiring designers to make their first step in the UX industry? Why is it so hard to choose one option over the other? What makes it so difficult to navigate? And you know very well the struggle that people have when they decide that they want to be a UX designer, but what now? So what do you think makes it so hard to start a UX career?
Great question. So I think, that's a good point there. I think when you start in a new field, every one of us, UX is a multidisciplinary field. So we all kind of come from a different background. And I think because there are so many options, it's so difficult to find what is right for me or what I should do. Or sometimes it's, how do I even get started? And then I think having this variety, it's also difficult for us to know. Should I do, for example, a bootcamp? Should I enroll into formal education? Should I just teach myself how to do it? What should I do? And honestly, there's no right or wrong answer. I know we are going to go through that topic as well, more in depth, but I think that's really the source of, let's say, being blocked, because there's so many options and they don't know, you don't know what you don't know. That's what I usually say. So for example, myself, because I've already have experience in my field, I can tell you, okay, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, what do I want to learn? So for me, it's much easier to find, let's say, a course so I can complement my skills. But for someone who's just getting started, they never worked in the field, they don't really know exactly what a role would, a UX role would be about. And we can also go into the many UX role titles. Not sure if you want to go there, but I think all of this really it's difficult for someone getting started. UX, it's a field that borrows from many disciplines, and it's also a field that is not officially regulated. So there's not really a consensus many times, and that just makes it difficult. What information should I trust? Who should I hear from? But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts there.
I feel you. I feel I'm very much aligned with what you just said. I feel that there are a lot of options. All of them have pros and cons. And as a junior designer, when you, like you said very beautifully, you don't know what you don't know, how do you navigate those options? How do you even form the criteria by which to choose one course over the other or one bootcamp over the other? So how do you know what needs to go into that decision if you're not in the field yet? And so I think that this is where I would circle back to your initial answer about what you would like maybe do differently or focus on in your early choices as a UX designer. I think this is when having a senior designer or someone who's more experienced in the field, you can call them a mentor, you can call them a design friend. It can be just anyone that kind of has an understanding of design, maybe guide you and support you into making that choice. But let's say that you were to like be that mentor or friend to someone that's looking for bootcamp or course or some sort of educational opportunity for transitioning into UX, what is the criteria that you would tell that person they should look for when making this decision? What are the things that matter in your view?
Yes, great question. I love that question. Okay, for me, when you choose a mentor, for me, it's more than someone. For example, I know that when I started working, for example, I had a project, a huge project that I worked for Google, and many people, you know, we look at these people, they work for Google, they work for Facebook, they Meta now, but anyways, they work for different companies. And the thing is, it should be more than that. So it should be more than the company they work for, even the experience. The experience, of course, is important. One thing I would look for more objectively would be years of experience, of course. If they have articles, if they have a portfolio online, that would be nice to look at. But I think more than that, a mentor should be someone that you can trust, that you can actually be inspired. So this needs to be someone you have some sort of connection with. So yeah, I think that's something that's often overlooked because we're always looking at the credentials. Where did they work? Are they, you know, famous or not? And sometimes we have great mentors and great talented people that are not even that well known, but they are great and they are really inspiring. So I think that's it really. It's looking for someone that you can form a relationship with, someone that can help you through the struggle, someone that can be there for you to support you, and especially someone that doesn't necessarily give you the answers. I know this is very difficult to grasp because when we are new, we just want, tell me what to do, just tell me everything I need to do and, you know, give me the answers. I think that's a misconception. So a mentor shouldn't be giving the answers. They should help you in the sense that you will know the answers yourself, and you wouldn't know if the mentor was not there, but it's still you. So you still need to come up with those answers. And that's very important. We all have different opinions. We all have different opinions on the field, but we really need critical thinking skills. For me, it's still really important skills you need as a designer, and that's what a mentor should be doing. They should stimulate you to reflect, to think, and be there by your side, of course, but having that sort of connection that really helps you to get to those answers. I know it's difficult when you don't know anyone and you want to contact them. I know it's difficult if you never met them before, but yes, I think that's what is the most important, really, having a relationship with someone.
It's a very interesting point, and I love the perspective on how difficult it is in the beginning to accept that that person is not giving you all the answers. I know that I had a similar experience with therapy and also with my own mentor. So it was 2 times in my life when I was just talking and pouring and had all sorts of questions and doubts and struggles, and the person in front of me just kept like reflecting my question. Like I said, what should I do with something? And they told me, what do you want to do? And then, but I don't know. That's the thing. Yeah, but look deeper. What do you want to do? What do you think is the right answer? And so always just putting the thinking, the process, the effort back on me. In the beginning, it felt exhausting. It felt like, what's happening? Why aren't you telling me what to do? But then I realized that there won't be someone holding my hand throughout my career, always telling me what to do. So when I have to design a design solution, there won't be someone on my shoulder to ask, what should I do now? So I have to like build, they encourage me to build a muscle of making decisions for myself, owning them, even if it's a mistake, even if I make a mistake. Mistakes are learning opportunities. So that's a very interesting point that indeed, I agree with you. That's pretty hard to grasp in the beginning. And another question, a follow-up question on this. So mentorship for us at Mento, and for me implicitly, mentorship is key to a successful transition. That's why we decided to name it Mento and to focus on the mentoring relationship, obviously. But apart from that, when you look at the course, like, I don't know, you're considering maybe doing the Google UX Coursera, maybe you're considering IDF or different boot camps. What other things should you look for? Like, when you look at the curriculum, maybe you don't even understand what it is all about. So how do you know which one is better? Who should you, like, I think it all comes down to who you should trust, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, that's also a very important point. For example, if you choose to do a course, let's say, first, what I would do, honestly, I would first understand what is the type of support I need at this stage. For example, depending on my background, do I need some sort of actual practical experience, which I think, we all need practical experience, but do I have a background where I already have the practical experience and I can easily just get into a course, for example, a self-paced course and do it myself? Or do I need a support that I can only obtain if I enroll into a bootcamp or some sort of program that I have that mentorship support? I think that's one of the first questions I would do myself, and I would recommend someone to do. Of course, if we think, if we are completely new, and I'm like very, very new, or we are not sure that we even want UX, I think in that case, a course like the one you mentioned, the Coursera course, I think that could be a good introduction, because I could get a sense, do I like this? Do I even want to do this? Because sometimes it's very difficult getting to a new field and getting to a bootcamp without knowing anything. And the first thing we know is, okay, I'm doing this huge investment and I don't even like UX, I don't even like design. But, for me, that's very important. So to understand first a bit if that's what I really want to do and what is the best way for me to accomplish those goals. There's really different pros and cons for each of the routes. I think self-paced, whatever you do, even a mentorship is going to be self-paced, but it's a different type of support. But it's very difficult if you're learning on your own and you don't have that kind of support. But if you're at the stage, for example, I can give you my own example. If you're at the stage that, okay, I want to learn more, I don't know, about quantitative analysis, for example, I think, yeah, you can go for a self-paced course, read a book, and that just enriches and improves your skills. But if you're just getting started, you need to know what are your goals, and if you really can improve the skills you have, or if you need extra support. So that's probably what I would start with. I wouldn't say that of course, for me, curriculum, that's one of my main interests. It's really important, but I wouldn't say that it's as easy for someone getting started. When you analyze the curriculum, do they look at the curriculum? Do they understand what it's in the curriculum? Yeah, those are some thoughts. It doesn't really give the right answer, like what you should do, but it's something, to consider.
But we already established that that's not the way to do it.
Exactly.
Give recipes and examples. But if I were to be a junior and talk to myself right now as a junior, I would say, you know what? Take the main options that you're considering, like top 3 courses or boot camps that you're looking into, and have a senior designer just look over the curriculum and look over the mentors who will be mentoring you, and look at it and tell you which one they would choose. Because it's really hard in the beginning to make that choice, because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know anything about the industry. So there needs to be this trust element, and maybe you can just reach out to some person you trust. It doesn't have to be someone who's public or someone who's popular. It can be just your, I don't know, neighbor that's doing UX design, or some cousin or anyone, and just ask them, hey, these are my options. Which one do you think would work best with my goals and everything? And you don't need to involve them in a mentoring relationship of 10 months or whatever. So it's not a huge effort from their side, but they will help you, at least in the beginning, pick up and navigate through the options. Maybe that's an idea. I don't know. I think that's what I would do today. So it's pretty, the UX education space is now very, very bubbly. There are a lot of options, a lot of boot camps, small boot camps, big boot camps, the big courses that are fighting IXDF with Google UX, Coursera, all sorts of options, self-paced, classroom, whatever. But there are also some pain points in this industry, some boot camps maybe over advertise the how easy it is to find a job. Other boot camps maybe say that you'll be a designer in 8 weeks, or stuff like that. So maybe there are a lot of things that I think young designers should be aware of, or should be careful with, if you want. Do you see any red flags or negative aspects to the UX space that juniors should be aware of or be careful about?
Yes. I think marketing, the way some bootcamps are marketed, I think that's the biggest issue at the moment, because as I said in the beginning, of course, when you're new, you don't know, you don't really know what it's about, how much work, how much effort you need to put into becoming a designer. But it's the same as, for example, I wanted to be a doctor because it's a good job, because it pays me well. But what is it about being a doctor? Do I want to be a doctor? And I think that's what this marketing, in terms of marketing, it misses the point. And it's an issue because we end up having this selling the dream and not selling really any skills, like, or anything sustainable. And I think that's what I would be aware of. Like, if some program promises you are going to be a designer, I don't know, like a designer with a job, for example, in 8 weeks, or you're going to be knowing everything about design in 8 weeks, that would be a red flag for me. I actually don't even like the fact that they can tell you how many weeks you have to learn, because everyone has a different pace, everyone has a different, so everything is different. That's actually what I love about Mento, because I love that we are clear from the beginning. But it's true, that's something I really liked before joining, that I noticed, because it is what it is, like everyone has a different pace, and that's a red flag for me. Another red flag is, a job guarantee per se is not a red flag, but I think the fact that there needs to be, of course, getting a job has many different variables and circumstances, and it needs to be the right thing for you. So if there's a program that offers you a job guarantee, maybe getting understanding what the job guarantee is about, what are the pros, what are the cons, and seeing if it's the right thing for you. So that's another thing I would pay attention to. And yeah, I think that's pretty much that, being clear of what it really offers you and what is really promising you. I think online education space is a bit tricky sometimes, because I feel we are focusing a lot in a dream. That's what I usually say, and not as much on what we are getting out of it in terms of the skills, in terms of what are we learning and how is that going to actually help me in my career goals. So yeah, those are some things I would be paying attention to.
Those are great things. And the last thing you mentioned kind of reminds me of another issue that I feel is kind of wrong with some parts of the UX education space. I feel that especially boot camps or educational programs that focus mostly on group projects, there's an issue with group projects, because sometimes there's always someone leading that project that does more work. It's not like, it doesn't emulate a real life setup where designers would work together, or different roles like the product manager and the developer. So it's one sort of collaboration, if you want, maybe handling conflict between people in a project and handling different goals or directions. You could learn something out of it. But at the same time, from what I understand, by talking to employers, hiring managers, senior designers in the industry, it's very difficult for them to navigate portfolios of students that show only group projects, because they can't tell what was their actual contribution in that project, and what's their thinking process when they're showcasing group projects, who did what in that project. It's easier in a real life project, right? I can say I did the UX part and that person did the UI part, or I had a researcher I worked with. It's easier when it's real, but in a school project, it's pretty hard to tell who did what. And so it's really hard to assess the critical thinking and the thinking behind that solution. So this is something that I've seen also as a red flag. Make sure that you get to work individually as well in your in whatever option you choose. And the last one that I would add is, not to brag that at Mento we only have mentors with at least 5 years of experience, but I've seen boot camps that, probably because the demand for boot camp mentors and teachers is so big, because boot camps are very popular. I've seen boot camps that have mentors that aren't even UX designers. They're either, I've seen graphic designers doing UX mentoring, I've seen front-end developers doing UX mentoring. So I would say that it's a red flag if you don't know that the mentor you'll be working with is actually working as a UX designer. It's really hard to guide and teach someone who's not, if you're not doing that work in real life. So I would say that's also something important, a red flag to watch out for. So by all means, someone who's a very well versed in UX design, but working as a graphic designer, it could be. I don't want to dismiss that person's knowledge, but at the same time, you want to teach your mentees and guide your mentees towards how to handle real life situations in a real UX job. So that's actually something very important that I would add. Uh,
Agree.
I'm gonna I'm gonna jump to the next question, which is, can you actually self-learn? Do you think it's possible to like know nothing and decide I'm gonna do this by myself? I don't need a course. I don't need a boot camp. What does it take? Is it achievable? Have you seen that happen?
I mean, just to add something, sorry, just to add something to the other question, because I remember we mentioned about the mentors and the professionals who actually work in the field and the group work projects. And you know that some courses do the assessments, the peer reviews, the peer assessments. And I mean, as an educator, I know that peer reviews are parts of it, but they shouldn't replace, and they shouldn't replace everything, because you are at the same level as someone else, right? And it's just difficult for you to just rely on that. Okay, it doesn't mean you don't have it at all. So I think discussing is important. Peer review overall is important, but not as a replacement. So that's another important thing when we're doing a self-paced course that only relies on that. But yeah, but about the other topic, so the topic of self-learn. Okay, self-learning UX. I mean, I don't think it's never impossible to not learn on your own, right? I think it's always possible. And I know we have many resources that allows us to do. I just think it takes longer. It takes longer, and it might be a frustrating journey. So, for example, sometimes people think that a course, for example, a course is going to give you materials that you never seen before, and that's not the case. A course.
Suck my dick, ain't nobody doing it like me. My dick. Nikita Dragon could get this dick, bitch.
Yeah, that
I was
happens.
just
It's
laughing.
first
I was
time.
saying that this is like, woo, crazy, crazy people, crazy moment.
Rehacked.
I don't know was it a real person? What real
I
person
think it
would
was
do that? I
alive.
think it's like a bot or something, or I don't understand if a
It
real
seemed like
person.
a bot. Yeah, I thought it was a bot of alive or something, alive from
Yeah.
another source. Yeah, it's crazy. Well, we know we need to be careful in Zoom rooms, but that never happened to me before.
Not to us either. We've had a lot of events. It's just like we need to cut it from the YouTube recording because they will take our video down or something for like violence and swearing. Jesus Christ.
Like
Okay, so
anything.
I forgot completely where we were in the
Me too.
It's erased. So the peer reviews, right? We were talking. Oh no, we were
Self-learn.
self-learn. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, self-learn. Yeah, this is Friday, so um, yeah. So about the self-learn, I do think. I mean, you can learn. Yeah. So I remember now. um, so sometimes when someone purchases a course or they enroll into a course, sometimes they think, or there's this misconception that they're going to find a material that they've never seen before, and it's really exclusive, and that's what you're paying for, is the actual content. But that's not really the case, because I do believe that everything already exists online, on YouTube. I mean, there's so many information, so many books about the topic, everything is out there. But what you don't have is the actual roadmap. So I think what you get when you enroll into a program is a roadmap, and really the path, the learning path. And that's why I'm so passionate about education, because it's really what we do. We build learning paths. And I always say, you're not buying content, you're buying an experience, and that's a learning experience. So to answer your question, I do think it's possible. I don't think it's impossible. You can learn anything you want, but I just think it takes longer. It might be a frustrating path. You might need to go forth and back, find things, and then fail and do it again. It's important to some degree, but of course, if it takes a long time, it might be frustrating. I know I've tried some things I'm not really familiar with, other topics, learning languages, for example, and I was never able to do it on my own, learning a new language even, because it's really frustrating. So yes, I would if it was today, if I had to learn something new, I would definitely like that type of support, that type of learning path, basically.
I love this point because I feel that the main problem because I think the main trap, if you want, for choosing to self-study is that you think, but all the information is already out there. It's free. I can go on all the UX blogs. Nielsen Norman has all the articles on everything. UX Collective. I can do this. I don't need someone. I don't need to pay for that. But what you're actually paying for is the structure to that information. I think people underestimate the importance of having a structured path, like you said, when you're learning, and also tying the theory that you're reading about to practical exercises, putting them into practice, because we all know, like with any field, theory without practice is not useless, but it's not the whole picture. So I think that's extremely important, an important point you made, having the structure and having someone to guide you through what you need to learn is actually the benefit of a course. Content is also important. Obviously, you want to be guided through good content, not shit content, but it's not the essential part. The essential part is the structure and the handhold, if you want, that courses and boot camps provide. So, okay, but just like the final answer from my perspective as well, you can self-learn, but like Radu said in comments, it's going to take 5 years. It can take shorter than that, but it's a struggle. And there's also the need to be held accountable by someone. And the last point I want to make, you can find an accountability body, like someone who's also transitioning, and you can try to hold yourself accountable. But when you're actually paying the money, it's like with therapy, you need to pay. I keep invoking therapy here. You need to pay for your therapy sessions to feel that you're putting in the effort in yourself and you're holding yourself accountable. It's the same with this investment. You're making an investment that holds you accountable. You have a mentor, like the authority, if you want, that keeps you accountable better than an accountability body. So it's the whole package that helps that transition be better. Because even with all these things, it's hard sometimes to continue to pursue the plan you're on and to continue to push through your boot camp. It's a roller coaster, like with everything, but it really helps to have all those ingredients. Okay. So my dear Anna, a question that I think is very juicy as well. What happens after graduation? What happens after you finish a boot camp or you've done the Google UX Coursera? What then? I think we also have a question around here, something along those lines, finding a job after graduation. What do you see happening with your mentees from other boot camps or with juniors you're talking to?
Okay, so I was very lucky because I've had, through my experience, people who were any backgrounds. I'm talking people who were doing math. So I didn't only mentor people in boot camps. I also mentored people who were actually studying in university. So that's also possible. And I've seen students being successful, but I think there are some key ingredients here. Of course, the first step is choosing, of course, the program you are comfortable with, and then you finish the program, and let's say you finished everything and you have a portfolio ready to show. Most people, I would say, it's kind of a journey. So it's a new journey. It's what I call the career journey. So there are other things you need to start doing now. So depending on where you are from and when you're located, there are great opportunities in UX right now, but it also means there's more competition. And, I'm going to give you an unpopular opinion here. Sometimes people say it's the competition's fault, or it's, everyone is doing UX, that's the problem. I don't think that's the problem. I think if you are good at what you do, it doesn't matter if there's one person applying to the same role, you are applying, but that person is not good for the role, then it's the same as having 100 people. So I don't think that's the problem. The problem is that we might be underestimating what we need to actually land a UX role. So I think that's the issue. So that being said, forget the competition, forget comparing yourself to others, and just focus on showing evidence of what you can do. And you can do that easily through your portfolio, but you really need to put effort and hard work into really explaining the process, explaining your thoughts, I don't even like to use the word process, because I like to use the word approach, because in the end it's your approach, because every project is different. So it's not about, the step-by-step, all of that. We've all seen that before. I really want to know what you've done. Why did you do it? Show me that you can actually put some thought there. And that's key, really. So in the end, your career journey is going to be step number one, putting something together where you can show evidence of your work, because that's half of the battle. If you don't have experience, but you show me that you can do the job, that's all I care, because I'm hiring someone who can do the job. So that's one thing. The second thing is you need to network, you need to stand out. Sometimes we also kind of skip this step, but it is important, because especially in the first phase, if we have many people applying for the role, and sometimes if we miss someone that is really talented, maybe it's because we are not building our brand, or we're not standing out enough. So how can I communicate who I am? How can I benefit this company, and what makes me different? What is my unique background? Never forget your past background. Never disregard what you've done before. So I come from, completely different background. You can always find transferable skills there. That's pretty much it. I think after graduation, you have lots of opportunities to find a job, okay, if you look with purpose as well, okay? So don't get into that mistake, that temptation of just sending lots and lots of applications. And no, you need to do it in a structured way, in a purposeful way, tailored way even. And I think, yes, from what I've seen, it's not difficult to find a UX role, but you really need to put that mindset that UX, being UX designer is not like this. It's not just putting a template together. You need to put the work in, but I think it's absolutely possible. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that I loved your part about personalizing your job hunt, and not just applying mindlessly to all the easy applies on LinkedIn, but actually being mindful about it, personalizing messages, going at the hiring manager or employer directly and telling them why you think they should hire you and so on. But I think that this calls for a future episode, Anna, where we discuss tactics for winning the job hunt in the UX design space. I think that there's a lot to unpack here, and I would love to have a full conversation about it. I'm up to my last question for this event, so I want to invite everyone to keep asking the questions they have in the chat, because in the last 10 minutes of this event, we will be answering the audience questions. And please write down your questions. And yeah, in the meantime, I ask my last question.
Can I jump in? So,
Sure.
Hello everyone, I'm Radu. I'm usually the master of ceremonies behind here, like the spotlights and kicking off people that, yell and display inappropriate content on on our lives, which happened the first time. I wanted to give a nugget of information for everyone that's right now in our Zoom meeting, which is like, what do you do on your job hunt to stand out of the crowd, right? And how can you come in front? So generally, companies hire on first good find basis, right? So if they find someone, they go through their application pool, and if they find someone that they like, they're gonna send an offer to that person. So they're not going to interview like 100 people and then decide which one was the best. They're going to interview one person and then decide if they were a good fit, and then move on to the next. So the thing you want to do is do something that no one else does. Stand out of the crowd. And what does everyone do? They submit their portfolio and their resume, and that's it. They're not interactive. They don't chat with anyone. They don't reach out to the hiring manager. They don't do anything special. They just like hit the apply button on LinkedIn, and that's it, right? And everybody does that. So if you do that, you're in the crowd. You're at the same level with 100, 200 other applicants. What you need to do, and again, this is a sort of a trade secret that I'm sharing with the 31 people that are in this Zoom, because you joined, so you should be getting this privileged information, is I've been in the seat of hiring manager for 4 years. You want to stand out of the crowd because you're making my life easier, and I'm gonna spotlight you. I'm gonna notice you've done something different. Maybe it's like a written application letter, an application video. Maybe it's, you've done something different than everyone else does. And you're going to make my life easier because I'm going to say, well, let's talk to this person first and see what they know. So you already jumped the queue in hiring, and you landed in the next couple of candidates that I'm going to talk to. So if you want to do something different for your job hunt, do this. Stand out of the crowd and be different from everyone that's doing the bare minimum. Really, everyone is doing the bare minimum. Like most people are doing the bare minimum. Don't do the bare minimum. Show real interest in that company, and I can guarantee someone will reach out. Maybe it's not gonna become a job right away, but you will stand out. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you for jumping in and sparing your wisdom with the audience. It's not just 31 people, it's everyone else who will be watching the YouTube video, but that's great. Let's give all the wisdom out there in the world. So my last question to Anna before we jump to the questions from the audience. Anna, my question is, what's all the noise around certificates? Everybody's asking, I need a certificate. There's like this obsession for certificates. As a person from the industry or talking to different hiring managers or employers, do certificates matter? Does anyone feel that this is something important or essential, or I will not hire you because you don't have the certificate? How are things around, and what does it even mean to have a certificate if you want? So what are your thoughts around that?
Great question. Okay, so I have actually seen both sides to it. I would say the vast majority, I would say it's a no. You don't really need a specific certificate. And I'm going to tell you why I think that, and from what I've seen. From what I've seen, as I told you before, if I can find someone who does the job, I really don't care if you have a certificate, if you don't, if you have this even a specific degree. So that's one point. Now there are specific roles, and I'm going to say very specific roles. I think it was Nielsen Norman Group. They launched some sort of report, and they did just some kind of research about the roles in UX and also UX research. And I've noticed, and in the research field, it seems that more people with degrees, that can be just a coincidence, but more people with degrees are hired. Now, that's not even a specific certificate. It's just someone who has a degree, probably because with an advanced degree, you are more involved in research, and that's the only reason. So what I think the answer is if that certificate brings you something in terms of what you've learned to get to that stage of the certificate, by all means do it. I don't think you should aim for the certificate itself. At least in our field, I haven't, even during my career, the jobs I had, other people who were hired, I never saw anyone really concerned, to be honest, about the actual certificates. So on the other hand, they do care about the work you've done, your experience, your portfolio, what you can actually show to really, tell me that you can do the job. So generally speaking, I wouldn't really say certificates. Of course, there's always going to be one person that's going to say, yes, I want a certificate. But, most cases, I would say no, not really.
My opinion as well. I just wanted to clarify that, because many times I see myself giving this explanation again and again. So what matters more is the portfolio and showing your thinking process and showing the work you've done and showing how you approach things, like you like to say. So that's important. It's not like having a stamp or not. Cool. So I'm gonna take some questions that came in the chat. Victoria asked earlier, actually it's two questions. I'm going to take just one of the questions she asked. How do you know that you're ready to apply for jobs as a beginner? This is an interesting question, because I also have this conversation with my mentees. When do you know it's the right time to start applying? When is the right time, Anna, in your view?
I think as soon as you have work that you're proud of, so work that you can show and you can confidently talk about that work from your thought process perspective, and that work can actually show evidence of your skills. I don't think there's a right time, or for example, some people really want to get to a stage where they have a specific number of case studies or a specific number of projects. Of course, it helps to have a variety. I would say 3 strong case studies, it does help, but I think when you're ready, it's when you actually have work to show, work that you're proud of. That's what I would say.
That's the perfect answer. I'm gonna applaud for it because I totally agree. Another question. Tiffany is asking, which project was your favorite to work on and what did you like about it? How did you end up working on it?
Oh, wow, favorite. That's a hard question. That looks like an interview question. That's a type of, you should also know that answer for the interview. I don't know, I had so many interesting projects. I think for me, the most interesting shift, I would say, in my career was when I started doing, because I was working for many years in-house, more of a hands-on, like hands-on type of role, like designing. And I think when I did my biggest shift was in that actually project I was talking about when I did the Google mobile UX project, not because it was Google or anything, but because it was a shift from what I was doing. So I was actually talking to people in events. It was the first time I did public speaking, so it was a massive thing for me. And I was actually advocating for mobile UX, for mobile UX centered philosophy. So it was really interesting for me because it was a shift. So that was a good project. I call it a project because it lasted initially 6 months, and then I was invited to do it again for more 6 months. And then I was the one who took the decision to leave, but for me it was still a project. So I consider that a project. I would say it was pretty exciting project. In terms of UX, more like hands-on project. Before I did kind of the shift more for consulting, research and strategy. I would say maybe the first time I was doing research in a team, which was back in the UK. And I think for me, that was very special because before that, I was mostly doing design. And when I first started doing research, we were building a research team from scratch. That was really nice as well. But yeah, I think that would be mostly it. After I got into consulting, it was mostly research projects. There was not one that I'm feeling like it was my favorite one. So I would say those moments that you take kind of a shift are the ones I remember the best. Yeah.
Beautiful answer, and it's interesting to hear more personal stories. So thank you for the question, Tiffany. Very interesting. We have another question that's very much related to UI from Anne Warul. I'm gonna invite you to ask that question on our Instagram page, and we're gonna answer there because we're gonna get our UI specialist to answer the question about icons, what icons to use. And I'm gonna jump to the last question for today, which came from Victoria. Thank you, Victoria, for being so involved in this conversation. What are some trends for this year to do in projects for your portfolio? Do you have any thoughts around that, Anna?
Trends. Okay, interesting question. So I would say, do not follow a specific trend because in the end, of course, in design, in the design world, you're always going to see new trends and new styles. But in the end, even the style itself and the design is going to depend on the type of project, the type of work you're doing. Does it actually align with the business? And so I wouldn't say there's a specific trend or there's a specific trend you need to follow. I think it needs to be something you are passionate about, excited about, and something that you see yourself in terms of career, so in terms of career goals. So yeah, I think that's pretty much what I would say. And it also helps you stand out. So there's that temptation, as I said in the beginning, to compare ourselves with others. And it's really difficult in the beginning, but it pays off in the end. Something you're excited about, something that aligns with your career goals and your future.
Makes perfect sense. It's the answer that I would have given myself. So I want to thank everybody in the audience for showing up to this event, asking interesting questions. I want to thank most of all Anna for accepting to join Mento as a mentor, and also for this wonderful conversation. I hope it's the first of more to come. Definitely, we need to make an episode around how to succeed in your UX job hunt. Radu will also be a guest on that episode, not just the master of directing our Zoom events,